Nader Gonzalez says that this bailout bill has to be scrapped forever because it does not have a corporate criminal law enforcement provision, number one. It does not provide for comprehensive regulation, number two. It does not require the disgorgement of ill-gotten gains by the crooks in Wall Street, number three. It does not provide power to the shareholders, institutional individuals, worker pension funds, and mutual funds that would have prevented the bosses at the top of these companies from engaging in such criminal and reckless behavior with other people's money. It also doesn't provide for adequate disclosure. Let there be no mistake about this bill. It came over from the Bush regime, the most criminally recidivist presidency in American history, to the Democrats who control Congress in 3.5 paltry pages. That was the size of the legislation. The Democrats, always ready to cave before the Bush-Cheney juggernaut and their Wall Street executives in government, like Henry Paulson, decided they were going to sugarcoat it. So they increased the 3.5 pages to 110 pages, full of camouflage, sugarcoating, and other amendments without any significance. Let there be no mistake that the so-called taxpayer equity is full of holes, that the so-called disclosures are absurd, that the so-called oversight board is nothing but wish fulfillment. There is no comprehensive re-regulation of the financial industry in this country. How did we get into this mess? Very simply, when Bill Clinton led the fight with Robert Rubin, his banker in residence in the U.S. Treasury Department, to deregulate the financial institutions in this country in 1999, he opened the door for the greatest speculative, reckless crime bill in Wall Street history. And they took advantage of it. And they ran away with trillions of dollars of people's money, savings, and retirement. By the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, Mr. Clinton made sure that the conflicts of interest between regular banking and investment banking were going to rise again, as they were in the 1930s, helping to cause the Depression before they were shut down by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Financial deregulation also included stripping investors of their right to sue in class actions against the aiders and abettors, the corporate law firms and the big accounting firms who develop these kinds of schemes on the one hand, and look the other way, as the accountants do on the other hand. What's going on around the country is a realignment of political forces. Never before in American history has the Libertarian Party, the Constitution Party, and the Green Party, and Nader Gonzalez effort, independent effort, ever gotten together, the left and the right, as the press likes to call it, and come down with 4 consensus positions. No more foreign military adventures, bringing the soldiers back home, dealing with the horrible deficit, which is another way of calling George W. Bush the biggest baby taxer in American history, as he shoves more and more of our burdens on the backs of our children and grandchildren. It also dealt with the civil liberties issue, the Patriot Act, the revised FISA Act, and the restoration of civil liberties. And it also dealt with the Federal Reserve. Aha, the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a government within a government. It is a secret government within a government. It is out of control. It is not accountable to Congress, never has been, because it is funded by bank fees and is controlled by bankers. And now the Federal Reserve is turning around and without adequate, clear authority is bailing out investment banks, bailing out any giant institution that it thinks is too big to fail. It is bailing out the banksters in Wall Street. It is bailing it out in ways that are very obscure to most Americans, because the way the Fed is bailing it out is indeed obscure. The question to ask is, where is Bush and the Democrats going to get $700 billion? Are they going to get it by deficit financing, putting further pressure on the U.S. bond market, and getting the money from China and Japan and other countries who have a huge trade surplus? Are they going to get it by raising taxes? Are they going to get it by some sort of revolving sinking fund? Isn't it amazing that there are no congressional hearings day after day to explore these issues as to whether a bailout is needed? Number one, if it is needed, what kind of bailout? What kind of safeguards for millions of homeowners who are being foreclosed or on the verge of being foreclosed? There is nothing in this bailout bill revised, this bailout light bill, that the Democrats have garnished with camouflage, sugarcoating, and window dressing for the homeowners of America who were swindled and deceived by these reckless mortgage lenders. In summary, the people of this country are rising. They're protesting. They're actually marching and demonstrating in some areas of our land. They need to increase the pressure on each of their members of Congress, especially here in San Francisco, on Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Only when the members of Congress fear the American people more than they fear the giant corrupt corporations who have taken over our government will the members of Congress do the right thing. Only when they fear the people more than the corporations. So give them the kind of outrage that you have in your minds, in your hearts, and take the time out to call your members of Congress, to email your members of Congress, to mail your members of Congress, to surround the local districts of your U.S. senators and House of Representatives here in San Francisco and in Los Angeles and all over the country with demonstrators that lock arms together, Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Greens, and at the forefront, the Nader Gonzalez supporters in this country.